I rent an apartment on the 7th floor. My windows overlook the neighboring building. One evening, while sitting at my computer, I suddenly felt someone's gaze. I walked around the room and approached the window, and I saw him. In the apartment in the building opposite, also on the 7th floor, there was light, and a man was sitting by the window on a chair, hands on his knees, staring directly at me. I was terribly scared and pulled the curtain. About an hour later, I approached the window again. The man continued to stare at me. In the morning, getting ready for work, I looked out the window. There was no one in the opposite window anymore. But in the evening, the story repeated itself. And so for several days in a row. In the evening, the man watched me. During the day, he disappeared. With each passing day, I became more nervous. I stopped sleeping normally. One evening, unable to bear it, I called the police. Seeing my frightened face and the person in the window, they decided to find out who lived in that apartment. I went with them. The police rang the doorbell for a long time. No one opened. Hearing a suspicious smell, they decided to break the lock. The smell of decomposing flesh hit our noses. A man was sitting by the window. He was dead. A bruise from strangulation was visible on his neck. The forensic experts said he had been strangled a week ago. And for a whole week, a dead person sat in the apartment. Several years have passed, and I am still haunted by the question: who was putting this dead man by the window every day and turning the light on and off?
The power went out in the entire neighborhood. Dark houses, pitch black streets. Nothing is visible beyond an arm's length. It's almost midnight and my beloved dog urgently needs a walk. What can you do? I had to go out with him. Everything around me is black. We didn't go far from home. The dog is doing his business and I'm lighting it with a flashlight. It's terrifying beyond description. Suddenly I hear a woman's voice animatedly telling something, approaching footsteps. I think I'm not alone. It became somewhat reassuring. I turn towards the voice and see the pitch black darkness again. Any person while moving would illuminate their way. Otherwise, they simply couldn't walk. A chill runs down my spine. Then a clear child's laughter rings out, and the same footsteps were approaching. At midnight, in complete darkness, I grab my dog and sprint to the entrance. I rush into the apartment and try to catch my breath. I don't know what it was, but my dog and I no longer go for walks at night.
After my mom's death, my husband and I moved into our old house. I wanted to be there. Every item reminded me of her. Besides, it's the home where I grew up, and many warm memories are associated with it. I cried before bed, looking at her clothes and photos. We went to sleep. At 1:30, we were startled by a strange sound. We both heard a squeaky laughter, completely unlike a human's. We got up and cautiously went to find the source. My husband shouted, "It's in the attic." We went upstairs, and silence prevailed. We exchanged glances and started rummaging through things. As I sifted through clutter, something right by my hand moved, and the loud laughter echoed again. Startled, I jumped back. My husband leaned down and picked up an old toy. It turned out to be a clown, covered in dust, worn and old. My mom had given it to me as a gift once, but then it stopped making sounds, and I abandoned the toy. To silence the creepy laughter, we had to hit it several times, until the mechanism stopped. The strangest thing was that the toy worked without batteries all this time. We tossed it into an old box far away. I went downstairs, and it hit me. Shivers ran down my spine. The clown laughed at exactly 1:30 a.m. That's when my mom passed away. A nightmarish coincidence.
My younger brother often complained that he was scared of a monster at night. Our parents took him to sleep in their room a couple of times, but then said it was time to get used to his own room. However, every morning my brother would tearfully recount nightmares. Perhaps we didn't take it seriously and attributed it all to a child's imagination. One night we woke up to a wild scream. We rushed to my brother's room, but it was locked. He was screaming in a voice that wasn't his, and my dad started kicking down the door. When we finally opened it, the window in the room was open, and my brother was lying unconscious on the bed. They took him to the hospital, found marks of strangulation and claws on his neck, unlike human. When he woke up, he said the monster had come to kill him.
I had long dreamed of moving away from my alcoholic parents. I got a job and rented a room in an aging apartment. Next door lived an elderly landlady, uncommunicative, always gloomy. But I thought it might be better if she wouldn't bother me with questions. For 2 weeks, I enjoyed life away from my alcoholic relatives until the horror began. In the middle of the night, the old lady would start laughing and shouting in a voice that wasn't hers. As I approached her room, I realized she was asleep. But every night, she would be disturbed by this laughter, as if in a horror movie. And then she started coming into my room at night. She would open doors, wander around, and laugh. I realized it's better not to wake sleepwalkers, and the old lady didn't remember anything in the morning. I thought about putting a lock on my door, but didn't get the chance. That night, I woke up to the creak of the door, thinking, "Oh God, she's here again." I opened my eyes, and the old lady was standing over me with a knife. She would have stabbed me in the stomach if I hadn't screamed and pushed her away. The old lady woke up, looked around, and I grabbed my bag and fled the apartment, living this nightmare.